Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Again Timidandasya Gananjana Shalak Chakshuram Nitamena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Panchakalpatrubhascha Kaksanabhivacha Dhanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namo Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Okay, reading from Canto 1, Chapter 8, Text 30. I think we may also go to 31, possibly. Because it's a nice verse, especially right after Janmashtami to hear. Everybody hear me okay?
Yes, Ruji, we can hear you okay.
And everybody gonna repeat the verse? Someone should at least be unmuted so I know what is happening on the other.
Yeah.
Janma karma chadishvatman.
Janma karma chipmatmantu.
Ajashakshutur atmanaha.
Ajachakshu. Oh, sorry, we just missed 2 words.
Triyan nirishishu yadasu.
Tirya nirshishu yadhastu.
Tad atyata vid ambadam.
Tad atyanta vidambanam.
Janma karma cha vishvatman.
Janma karma cha vishvatman.
Ajashakshutur atmanaha.
Ajasya karturatmanaha.
Triyan nirishishu yadasu.
Tiryan rishishu yadhastu.
Tad atyat vidadbanam.
Tat atyanta vidambanam.
Janma karma cha vidyatman.
Janma karma cha vishvatman.
Ajakshatur atmanaha.
Ajasya karturatmanaha.
Tiryan nirishishu yadhasu.
Tiryan rishishu yadhasu.
Tadatyata vidhan badham.
Tat atyanta vidambanam.
You want to repeat, everyone? Here, there's not many. We can all sing the glories of this verse.
Yeah. Can I repeat, Prabhu?
Huh?
Can I repeat the verse?
Yeah, please.
Janma karma cha vishvatman. Ajasya karturatmanaha. Tiryan rishishu yadhasu. Tat atyanta vidambanam.
Anybody else?
Janma karma cha vishwatman ajasya kartur atmana tirya nirshishu yadhashu tad atyanta vidambanam.
Anyone else? Ooh, can you switch my screen back to gallery view? I'd rather not look at myself giving class. One time Bhakti, thank you, appreciate that. Time Bhakti Siddhanta, I've been told that every time he rarely looked into a mirror because it reminded him of being in a material body. Not that I have such realization, but sometimes I think of that when I see myself. And for the spirit soul, it's a very sad thing to be in a material body. I guess unless one's completely absorbed in Krishna, but I'm not there yet. So thank you for tolerating my silly ways. Anyway, anybody else want to repeat this verse before we go into the word for word? I see you're unmuted. You want to chant this verse?
Krishna Prabhuji. Janma karma cha visvatman ajasya kartu atmanaha triyan rishisu yada ashu tat atyanta vidambanam. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Deity. Going once, going twice. Anyone else? All right. Word for word. Janma,
Janma,
birth.
birth.
Karma,
Karma,
activity.
activity.
Cha,
Cha,
and
and
Vishva Atman,
Vishwa Atman,
O soul of the universe.
O soul of the universe.
Ajasya,
Ajasya,
of the unborn.
of the unborn.
Kartu,
Akartu,
of the inactive.
of the inactive.
Atmanaha,
Atmanaha,
of the viral energy.
of the
Vital.
vital energy.
Tiryak,
Tiryak,
animal.
animal.
Ri,
Nra,
human
human
being.
being. Human being.
Ishu,
Rishi Shu,
in the sages.
in the sages.
Yada Shu,
Yadha Su,
in the water.
in the water.
Tat,
Tat,
that.
that.
Atyanta,
Atyanta,
veritable.
veritable.
Vid of
Vidam, Vidambanam,
bewildering.
bewildering.
Translation in purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. Of course it is bewildering, O soul of the universe, that you work, though you are inactive, and that you take birth, though you are the vital force and the unborn. You yourself descend amongst animals, men, sages, and aquatics. Rarely, this is bewildering. The last verse, Kunti was talking about how no one can understand Krishna's transcendental pastimes, which appear to be human and are misleading. You have no specific object of favor, nor do you have any object of envy. People only imagine that you are partial. So naturally, continuing into this, she's speaking of the bewildering aspects of Krishna's transcendental wholeness, one could say, inconceivable nature. So we'll go into the purport. The transcendental pastimes of the Lord are not only bewildering, but also apparently contradictory. In other words, they are all inconceivable to the limited thinking power of the human being. The Lord is the all-prevailing supersoul of all existence, and yet he appears in the form of a boar amongst the animals, in the form of a human being as Ram, Krishna, etc., in the form of a rishi like Narayan, and in the form of aquatic like a fish. Yet it is said that he is unborn. He has nothing to do. In the Shruti mantra, it is said that the Supreme Brahman has nothing to do. No one is equal to or greater than him. He has manifold energies, and everything is performed by him perfectly by automatic knowledge, strength, and activity. All these statements prove without any question of the Lord's activities, forms, and deeds are all inconceivable to our limited thinking power. Because he is inconceivably powerful, everything is possible in him. Therefore, no one can calculate him exactly. Every action of the Lord is bewildering to the common man. He cannot be understood by the Vedic knowledge, but but he can be easily understood by the pure devotee, because they are intimately related with him. The devotees therefore know that although he appears amongst the animals, he is not an animal, nor a man, nor a rishi, nor a fish. He is eternally the Supreme Lord in all circumstances. Makes me think of two things off the top of my head, which maybe we can elaborate on as Krishna inspires us to unfold something from these words of Srila Prabhupada and Vyasdev or Kunti. That is one time. So it said that can Krishna do anything, or can God do anything? And the answer is yes. So some would say, can he create a rock that he cannot lift? So the answer is, of course he can, and then he'll lift it. Inconceivable nature and contradictory nature of the Lord, that he can create something that he cannot lift, but then the next moment he will lift it. The other thing, I can't remember what it was, but Srila Prabhupada is speaking of the transcendental pastimes of the Lord are not only bewildering, but apparently contradictory. So, in other words, they're all inconceivable to the thinking power of the human being. So, our nature in itself is beginning and end, and it is based within the laws of physics, within the material world. Our ability to think beyond that which is transcendental is only able to happen if we have the complete and full mercy of the Lord, which enlightens us through within as Paramatma. The natural state of the conditioned soul is to think within the realms of their own reality. And that means we have some beginning, some end, something that can be done, something that can't be done. So when Krishna appears in such inconceivable ways, it is difficult for the conditioned soul to understand. So it is described as inconceivable. So Lord, in his all-prevailing super soul of all existence, and yet he appears in the form of a prevailing super soul. And yet he appears in the form of a boar amongst the animals. So as we continue on in the Srimad Bhagavatam, for those who have not read Srimad Bhagavatam, we will come to some wonderful verses about, in English would be Lord Boar, or Sanskrit as he's known as Lord Vrahadev, in which he saves the earth from its plunge into the ocean, into the causal ocean. So the past time, there's one great demon called Hiranyaksha. And from what I understand, he was a very greedy person and went throughout the earth and stole all of the gold, all of the wealth of the earth. So the earth went into disbalance, and because of this imbalance, it fell into the causal ocean in which Mahavishnu is laying. So this is a very disturbing moment for the residents of the earth, obviously, and the earth itself. So it is explained that the demigods headed by Brahma prayed to the Lord. And during these prayers, Braha came out of the nostril of Brahma. And at first he was just like this big, the size of the thumb. Or I think it might have been the nail of the thumb, the tip of the thumb, very small, had to come out, right? So, and then he grew into the magnificent form of Rahadev. And so he confronted Hiranyaksha, and there was a great battle in the upper planetary systems, in which the demigods at one point thought all things were lost. The Lord was about to be defeated. But with his transcendental hoof, he hit Hiranyaksha and defeated him, and went down into a I think he went down into the causal ocean first with his tusks, or his tusks. He lifted the earth out of that area, brought her back up into a safe space. So when Hiranyakashipu heard this, he was the son of the father of Prahlad, became very angry. But first he spoke some very amazing philosophy. When you read through, I think it's the 9th canto, or 8th, 7th. I don't remember which one it is. 7th canto, that he is speaking to his family, trying to console them. And you would be amazed at the philosophy that Hiranyakashipu knew. He spoke very eloquently on the nature of the soul. But because he is a demon and he has no appreciation for Krishna, you'll never hear the devotees citing such verses. But he was very learned. Though he was a demon, he was not unintelligent. But he was, unfortunately, he was envious of Krishna. He wanted to defeat Vishnu for destroying his brother, and that was his main focus for the remainder of his time, was to try and defeat Vishnu. But we all know the pastime that inconceivably, again, Krishna in this inconceivable energy became half man and half lion, Nrsimhadev, and tore the abdomen of Hiranyakashipu after another great battle. Krishna likes to battle. And, throughout many of his pastimes, you see he's fighting many demons. Not just pastimes of Krishna, he fights all sorts of inconceivable demons, very mystically empowered demons. But he is known as the greatest of all mystics, so he easily defeats them. So Srila Prabhupada is describing here at the end that even though he appears in the form of an animal like Brahadev, he is not an animal. He is always and forever the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who appears in these forms to protect the devotees and to and also to enthrall them with wonderful transcendental pastimes. Continuing in this purport, we have the form of a human being as Ram and Krishna, etc. So there's many forms that Krishna takes within the category of human being. First one that Srila Prabhupada here is citing is Lord Ram, who is probably one of the most famous of all of Krishna's avatars or incarnations, in which he has a very epic and beautiful pastime narrated in the Ramayana, also within the Srimad Bhagavatam, but more, there's much more detail within the Ramayana, in which he is teaching so many wonderful lessons. One is that no matter what size or ability one has, when one serves the Lord with their intention to please him, he always accepts that that offering. Like when Hanumanji and the spider or the squirrel, depending on which pastime you hear, which source, more than likely is these little details that we have differently. Oftentimes it happens a little bit differently according to the yuga or the day of Brahma, in which, maybe not day of Brahma, but the time frame in which these pastimes happen. They don't, they happen in different cycles. So sometimes these details are a little different, but all the same, the lesson is the same, in which the mighty Hanumanji was lifting mountains and bringing them to the ocean so that he could build that bridge across. And the spider or squirrel could only take little bits, and they were kicking. And Hanuman said, "Get out of my way." And I was like, "No, he's doing as much as he can, but his offering is just as valuable to me as yours." So this is Krishna's mercy, that he sees the heart intent, not the product in which comes, but the intent of the heart. So within our services, it is the intent of the heart that Krishna is looking at. We always do our best to, according to our abilities. That is a part of that offering. But the most important part of the offering is what is the intent behind it, to please Krishna, as is explained. So Krishna again is another most known and beloved personality that appears. In this particular day of Brahma, we have the most fortune of Krishna himself appearing. The Lord of Goloka Vrindavan appears within this age, within this day of Brahma, to perform his transcendental pastimes. So some days of Brahma, Krishna appears like many of the other incarnations appear. There are expansions of Vishnu. But this particular day, he does not expand himself through Vishnu, but he is the original source, Krishna, in which he performs the pastimes of Vrindavan like none other. So when we speak of these pastimes of Vrindavan, we speak of all of the different rasas, the rasa of neutrality, the rasa of servitude, the rasa of friendship, and of parental love, and of conjugal love, all mixed in to the different persons in which Krishna is, or should I say devotees, that Krishna is interacting with. So Vrindavan is the place where we find devotees so absorbed in Krishna that they're not thinking that he is the Supreme Lord, but they're thinking that he is my friend or my son or my nephew, or whatever the relationship is. You're completely absorbed within that relationship. And there's no room for this Aishwarya, this mood of awe and reverence, in which Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Though he is always the Supreme Personality of Godhead, through his energy, he bewilders the living entity to think that they are superior to him, in a sense that Mother Yashoda, if she realized that Krishna was the Supreme Lord, source of everything, there is no way she would find it in herself to bind Krishna to a grinding mortar for his protection, or to chastise him for eating dirt. She would become completely subservient to him. Okay, you want to eat dirt, that's fine, you're the Supreme Lord. But where's the sweetness? Where's the relish of that intimacy in that relationship? Not the same as Mother Yashoda chastising Krishna and then seeing the complete universe within his mouth, and then becoming bewildered and becoming covered again and seeing, okay, this is my son. So this is Krishna's, this is Vrindavan. This we do not see every time that Krishna appears in Gokul, in Vrindavan, and Mathura. He, in other times, appears similarly to like Lord Ram, where there's some parental love that Kaikeyi, or brotherly love that Bharat and the other brothers experience in Lord Ram's presence. But it is all done because he is the Supreme Lord. It's understood. Same with Kapil Dev. Devahuti had this same relationship of being the mother, but at the same time being surrendered as the servant. So when this happens in Vrindavan, it is almost like the mirror image of Maya within this world. So you have Krishna's energy of Yoga Maya and Mahamaya, and when the living entity is within the conditioned world of the material, within the material condition, they are under the influence of Mahamaya, thinking that they are this body, thinking that everything in relation to this body is mine and for my enjoyment. But under the influence of Yogamaya, one is still absorbed in pleasing Krishna, but in a way that is according to that relationship they have with Krishna. So one personality in which appeared not too long ago is Lord Chaitanya, who also appeared in this, who is also Krishna himself, and displayed many of these personalities that we just spoke about. One day he was in Srivas Thakur's puja room, his temple room, and he saw one pot. It's like, I think this pot it's in the worship of the Lord, you have what's called a throw out pot, Sanskrit word, I can't remember, Vishvanjanya? I can't remember the Sanskrit word, but it's one pot. Every time you offer like some item, you throw it in this pot. So all of the prasad that's offered to the deity that one generally won't take is put there. So and it had one big, like bowl looking. And when Lord Chaitanya saw it, he immediately felt, he saw it as the earth, and he became can overcome with the mood of Rahadev, and he picked it up he became Rahadev. He had tusks, and he picked it up and started running around the room of Srivasa's temple room, and he was probably calling out something, because that's something Lord Chaitanya did in his ecstasy. He liked to call out things, but I can't recall anything he called out in this particular pastime, but he may have, but Srivas, and then he put it down and told Srivas to offer prayers, and Srivas said, similar to what Kunti said in this, and I guess not exactly, but who can understand your transcendental pastimes? How can I glorify you? You're, like this. So what can the conditioned soul say about the Supreme Personality of Godhead, of the Supreme Lord? But the pure devotee is inspired from the heart to speak something by the Lord himself. So the Lord empowered Srivas to say something. So that is how like Srila Prabhupada said, these books, I'm not writing these books, write all these books. These are all Krishna's inspiring to me what to say. So the pure devotee is directly in contact with Krishna. And then we get the benefit of repeating what we've heard from them, because the conditioned soul is not able to, how are we able to speak anything in relation to this, to Krishna, the Supreme Lord? He's inconceivable. We have limited thinking power, like Srila Prabhupada says. So the ability is very little, but by the mercy of Guru, one gets Krishna. So when we hear from the pure devotees and we repeat, this is for our and all those around us benefit. Another time, Lord Chaitanya, he was walking along the beach, and along the Ganga, the bank of the Ganga, and one Shivite he was performing some worship, Lord Shiva, he is not Vishnu. He's like it is explained that Lord Vishnu is like milk, and Lord Shiva is like yogurt. So from yogurt you cannot get milk, but from milk you get yogurt, dahi. And so Lord Shiva is like that. This is how Brahma Samhita explains it. So we won't go into that, because that is a whole nother topic. But Lord Chaitanya became inspired, and he transformed into Lord Shiva and jumped on the shoulders of this Brahmana. And he started screaming out, Shankar, Shankar, Shankar. And the devotee became ecstatic that Lord Shiva was on his shoulders. And he started dancing, and then they both danced. Another time, Lord Chaitanya, I forget what made this happen. I think he was in the temple room of another devotee, and he heard the prayers of Lord Nrsingadev. He became ecstatic, and he became empowered. He didn't take the form of Nrsingadev, but he took the mood of Nrsingadev, and he started roaring. He was roaring. He started running around Navadvip, roaring in ecstasy. And everyone, they became a bit bewildered by this action. And then some of them were fearful, and Lord Chaitanya was a bit disturbed that he let himself get so out of his ecstasy is out of control, and he became worried that he frightened everyone. But might have been Gadadhar, because Gadadhar had a way of pacifying Lord Chaitanya's moods. Lord Chaitanya sometimes would want Krishna so bad that he'd just weep. And Gadadhar would pacify him. One time he said that Krishna's in your heart. Lord Chaitanya became so overwhelmed that he started tearing at his chest to take his heart out because he wanted to see Krishna. This is Lord Chaitanya's deep mood. Gadadhar pacified him again. I don't remember what he said, but it would be in the Chaitanya Bhagavatam, possibly Chaitanya Charitamrita. But whoever was pacifying him this day when he became inspired by the mood of Nrsingadev, they said that anyone who saw your transcendental roars would be benefited eternally. So Lord Chaitanya had his way of becoming. Generally, he was he was not so inclined to show his transcendental nature as the Supreme Lord, because he was appearing as a devotee. He was appearing as one that was showing others how to follow the path of bhakti to achieve the perfection of the residents of Vrindavan. And because he is Krishna himself, again, another benefit of this particular age of Kali, that Lord Chaitanya, though the Supreme Lord appears as a Yuga avatar every age, and in particular this age of Kali, to distribute the holy name, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, and to benefit the souls of Kali Yuga by chanting this holy name, this Mahamantra. He appears in this particular age as Krishna himself, to experience the love of his devotee, to experience what a devotee experiences when they are absorbed in the service of the Lord. There are a few other reasons that we won't go into. But there are certain times in which Lord Chaitanya, his inconceivable nature as the Supreme Lord, would come through. And though there are not many, there are a few pastimes in which we just discussed some of them. But one in particular is he appeared, they were doing these all-night kirtans at Srivas Thakur's house. They were chanting from sunset to sunrise, from the evening into the morning, all night long, just kirtan. And he became bewildered. Bewildered, I don't know if I should use that word, bewildered. He became, because the Lord doesn't quite become bewildered, but he became overwhelmed with a feeling of or a desire to give a benediction or give a treat, a special treat to his devotees. And he sat on the throne of Vishnu, and he began to tell the devotees to glorify him as the Supreme Lord. And as devotees were coming, he was showing the form in which that devotee held most dear in his heart. So he would appear as Krishna, he would appear as Vishnu, he would appear as Krishna and Balaram. He appeared as Shyam Sundar. He appeared as Lord Ram to Murari Gupta. And this went on and on for from what I understand, it was 72 hours. So one night became 72 hours. So at the end of that night, we can't understand that. Because one day is 24 hours. One night can't be 72 hours, but it had been. This is another inconceivable way that Krishna manipulates the material energy to benefit the devotees for their pleasure. So this pastime is known as the Mahaprakash Lila, and it is so many more wonderful details are described there. So Krishna appears as the sage Narayan. These pastimes are generally spoken about as Narayan Rishi, where Nara and Narayan are performing some pastimes. From what I understand, Arjuna appeared as the friend of Narayan Rishi. I do not know many pastimes. One time he was, but I know one time he was in a meditative state, and one of the demigods, I don't remember exactly who, I would assume it would be Indra, because Indra had a tendency of trying to do things like this, but they sent some apsaras to dance to break the concentration of during his meditation. He felt this happening, and then he manifested his beauty and bewildered the beauty of the apsaras who came. So he was not distracted from his meditation. So carrying on, Kunti is talking about aquatics. When the Lord appears in the aquatics, we have Matsya, who appeared and helped one king, forget his name, and he was at one point this little fish, became this very big fish, and he performed this pastime to help save the inhabitants of the earth from a flood. This pastime is also in Srimad Bhagavatam. Matsya Avatar. Also, he appeared as Kurma, as a tortoise, so like that. So, as we carry on in this purport, Prabhupada is talking about, yet he has said that he is unborn, he has nothing to do. So, Krishna is not born, but is this what is eternal, is not no beginning and no end. So this is one bewildering statement in which a conditioned soul is very difficult to understand, because our mind is, like I said earlier, our mind is within the beginning and the end realm. It cannot understand unborn but existing. So we have to almost take it like that it is inconceivable, it is beyond our understanding. It is from a nature that is beyond our understanding, from the spiritual nature, that he is unborn. He has nothing to do. So when the Bhagavad Gita explains this, that when you see action and inaction and inaction and action, so we have the word karma here within this verse. So activity. So and then Prabhupada translates it, though you are inactive. So when one is not acting, then there's no reaction. So when everything is transcendentally performed, there is no reaction to that action, karmically speaking. So the reaction to our transcendental action would be that we are more attracted to Krishna. So Krishna is pulling us in, is like that, like it says that like reeling it in, like when people fish, they throw a line reeling in. So like it's said that when we make one step to Krishna, he makes like 100 steps to us. So Krishna is trying to bring us back into his transcendental pastimes. He doesn't want us trying to be bewildered in this material world by this sense or that sense, and always trying to find some scrap of enjoyment within the material world. It wants us to experience the full. See, one time I heard it explained that we have what's it called, a inheritance, right? An inheritance. That inheritance is this inheritance from the family, right? When a parent dies, and the children get an inheritance. So the inheritance, our spiritual inheritance, is that is that pure love, that experience of the spiritual world, where every step is a dance, every word is a song, that there is absolutely no suffering. Everything is in complete enjoyment, absorbed in the Supreme Lord, and in the service and the experience of the devotees working together to serve the Lord. So all that is within our reach. And Srila Prabhupada, the previous acharyas, and Krishna himself, when he appears to inspire, is all giving us that opportunity to become absorbed, to become touched by that within the material world. And we have the great benefit of the Mahamantra, the service of the deity, the service at the temple, the service of the devotees, to inspire and to keep us active in getting closer to Krishna. So we have few minutes left. Carrying on in this purport, toward the end, he says that he cannot be understood by the Vedic knowledge, but he can be easily understood by the pure devotee, because they are intimately related with him. So this is the reason in which we need the devotees. We need a sadhu sangha. We need the spiritual master to guide us to understand Krishna. This is that Om Jnana Tinamidhandasya, like that verse. This is the essence of that verse, is that we don't have the ability to understand Krishna. We don't have the ability to even approach Krishna. But the spiritual master gives that qualification, that ability, qualification. So the devotees would sometimes tell Srila Prabhupada that I am not qualified, and he would say, well, I gave you a qualification. So this is the special mercy of the spiritual master. We have various spiritual masters that we are getting connected to Srila Prabhupada. And this is parampara. This is how over the time since Brahma awoke within that flower, that lotus, and was inspired to perform like tapa. From that time on, this great and knowledge has been passed. So we have so much knowledge, so much opportunity to knowledge, but it is not knowledge alone, but it is by the mercy of the spiritual master. It said that by the mercy of Krishna, one gets Guru, by the mercy of Guru, one gets Krishna. So when the living entity is inquisitive to understand, Krishna in the heart understands that, sends the Guru for that connection. So it is by the devotees. Prabhupada is saying, therefore, the devotee therefore knows, right? That's why he's saying it is easy to be understood by the devotees. He is intimately connected through this process of bhakti. We are connected to the Lord, and the Lord reveals from within the heart these inconceivable understandings. And thus we can begin to understand Krishna. So if there are any questions or comments that anybody wants to add to this verse, please do so at this time. Don't all unmute at once. Someone's got to say something. There are many devotees here. Many personalities who have way more higher understanding of these topics than me. In much more eloquent way of saying it, please. We have 4 minutes. So, Jai Sachinandan Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, can you hear me?
Yeah, yes, I can. I'm assuming everyone can.
Thank you. I spoke the prior verse last week, or repeat Srila Prabhupada's message in the prior verse, and these verses are very humbling verses. How to explain the Lord's inconceivable nature is not easy. It's Sri Upanishad. So you covered a lot of topics, and I like how you remained so faithful to Srila Prabhupada's purport. That was very nice. And extrapolated from his purport, and kept it relevant to what Srila Prabhupada is trying to instruct us on. I was reading to Srila Prabhupada Vani. You can find lectures that he has given on such topics, and he explains that these subject matters are inconceivable because we're not purified, and the only way to become purified is by engaging in the process of bhakti, like the famous Bhakti Amavati or Tesha Eva Anukampartham, etc. That those help us to understand and the seeming contradictions of birth, not birth, walking but not walking, hands, eyes but not materialized. Srila Prabhupada talks about that in Upanishad, saying that without inconceivable potencies, there can be no meaning to the supreme personality of Godhead. So, like these sort of inconceivable aspects. Srila Prabhupada even talks about this in Gita 2.25, where Krishna talks about the inconceivable nature of the soul. And Srila Prabhupada says, that this is explaining that such descriptions are not conceivable by human experimental knowledge. So it's just I always find Queen Kunti's prayers so interesting, and kind of like when you look at the prayers of Vasudev, Devaki, we just had Janmashtami, so I was reading those. They all talk about the inconceivable nature of the Lord, and then they go on to their kind of sweet request, that may you never leave us. How amazing is it that you appeared, from the womb of Devaki. And when I was first reading it, I was thinking, wait a minute, you've just had the Lord as your child. Why are you going on and on about these, these other kind of almost impersonal qualities of the Lord, and then from what I understood from others, more advanced devotees and Srila Prabhupada, is that it gives you a proper mindset to actually appreciate the pastimes of Lord Krishna and not kind of think of him in a mundane manner. We talked somewhat about this during the killing of Putana pastime, of how in order to appreciate Krishna Lila, you have to appreciate Krishna Tattva. And without that, Krishna Lilas become kind of like stories, and they don't become necessarily something that empowers one to develop love of Krishna. So, yeah, thank you very much for covering the various aspects of Srila Prabhupada's purport. I appreciate what you're trying to do. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to your main service. Other devotees here who can speak and the listeners also give enthusiasm to the speaker. I think from Bhagavatam we know that. So please speak something about your understanding or appreciation. And then please don't forget, today we have a very special lecture by His Grace Kalakanta Prabhuji at 11:30.